Imagine waking up on New Year's Day with this 90-year-old, just deeply conservative founding father running your country.
Right, someone who has been in charge for so long, nobody even really remembers the guy before him.
Exactly. And now imagine that by Christmas of that exact same year, your nation is suddenly being ruled by an impulsive 29-year-old absolute monarch.
It's just, I mean, the whiplash alone would tear most modern institutions apart.
It totally would. But in 1888, the German Empire didn't have to imagine it. It actually happened. So welcome to the deep dive. We are thrilled you're sitting right here at the table with us as we, tear into today's source material.
Yeah, we've got a really fascinating Wikipedia article today detailing this bizarre, almost unbelievable historical anomaly from German history.
Right. The event is known as the Dreikaiserjahr,
The year of the three emperors.
which is such a wild concept. And that's our mission today. We are exploring this one single chaotic calendar year, 1888, where the newly unified German Empire went through 3 different supreme rulers in a matter of months.
And we're going to unpack how this incredibly rapid turnover completely altered the trajectory in the 20th century.
Because it really did.
Right.
In Germany, people actually still remember this using a catchy little mnemonic from the text. It goes, Drei Achten, Drei Kaiser, 3 eighths, 3 emperors.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer compression of time, right? To really understand the chaos of 1888, you have to look at the human element.
Because it's not just politics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a political reshuffling or, a parliamentary government collapsing and holding new elections. This was a grandfather, a father, and a son.
All in the same family.
Right, sequentially taking the throne of Europe's largest, most powerful military state, all within a single calendar year.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can really appreciate the sudden whiplash of 3 emperors in 1 year, we first need to establish the intense stability that preceded it.
Yeah, and that brings us to Emperor Wilhelm I.
Right. According to our source, he became King of Prussia way back in 1861. And Wilhelm I is, well, he's the definition of a survivor. The guy lived to be almost 91 years old.
Which, that is an absolutely staggering lifespan for the 19th century.
Now, let alone for a monarch, right?
Yeah, bearing the weight of a massive state.
And he isn't just any monarch. He's the ruler of Prussia, which was the largest German state and the one that actually spearheaded the unification of the entire region.
Driven largely by the efforts of his chancellor, Otto von Bismarck.
Right. Bismarck. But Wilhelm I is the guy sitting at the very top when the German Empire is officially forged on January 18th, 1871.
So he rules over this newly unified empire for 17 years.
On top of having already ruled Prussia for 27 years. It's just wild.
It is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to understand the constitutional mechanics that Bismarck built around Wilhelm I.
Because it wasn't a democracy, right?
Not at all. The German Empire wasn't a modern democracy. Bismarck designed this system where the chancellor, which was Bismarck himself, conveniently answered exclusively to the emperor.
Not to the parliament.
Exactly, not to the elected parliament. The entire machinery of the state was balanced on the personal relationship between this one chancellor and this one emperor.
Wow.
Wilhelm I was this stabilizing force. He provided the legitimacy, and he generally just trusted Bismarck to run the complex web of European alliances.
I was thinking about this, and the best modern equivalent I can give you is, imagine a massive industry-dominating tech startup.
Okay, I like this.
Right. So the unified German Empire is this absolute powerhouse of a company, and Wilhelm I is the founding CEO.
Right.
But he stays in the CEO chair until he is 90. And because this 90-year-old CEO refuses to step down, all the mid-level managers, the politicians, the military leaders, the reformers, they're entirely frozen in place.
They're terrified to make a move.
Exactly. The company can't innovate because the entire corporate culture, the identity, the operating procedures, they're all built around the personality of a guy born in the 1700s.
Right. Which is just crazy to think about.
How does an empire like that even function?
Well, it basically functions through inertia. The system Bismarck built was completely reliant on Wilhelm I's calm temperament.
But that's a huge vulnerability.
Oh, absolutely. That's precisely why a system built on one man's heartbeat is so incredibly fragile. Wilhelm I's death on March 9th, 1888, is this seismic structural event.
Because it wasn't just losing a leader.
Right. It was the removal of the empire's foundational pillar. The state had derived its legitimacy from his continuity. Suddenly, all that pent-up political energy, all those factions that had been waiting patiently in the wings for literally decades, they see their moment.
The generational bottleneck has finally popped.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because the bottleneck pops, the transition happens, but it is fundamentally compromised from day one.
Yeah,
And this brings us to the second emperor of 1888, which is honestly one of the most tragic ironies in modern history.
it really is.
Wilhelm is succeeded by his 56-year-old son, Crown Prince Frederick William, who takes the name Emperor Friedrich III.
Friedrich III is this pivotal what-if in European history because he represents a completely different potential timeline for Germany.
Right. Let's look at his background because he spent his entire adult life waiting for this exact moment. By the time his father finally dies, Friedrich is 56.
But he wasn't just, lounging around palaces waiting for the crown.
No. The text explicitly points out that he was a highly celebrated military commander. He led armies through the major conflicts that actually forged the empire.
The Second Schleswig War, the Austro-Prussian War, the Franco-Prussian War.
Right, and this is the detail that stopped me in my tracks, he is also a reputed liberal.
He's a remarkable paradox.
Wait, hold on. I need to push back on this because isn't that a massive contradiction? How does a guy who spends his entire life leading Prussian armies, like the most rigid, conservative, authoritarian military establishment in the world, come out of it wanting to be a liberal reformer?
It sounds impossible, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't the military completely reject him?
Well, that is exactly why Friedrich was so uniquely dangerous to the conservative establishment. In most historical scenarios, when a liberal reformer tries to change a militaristic state, the military establishment simply dismisses them.
Right, they just call them a weak, inexperienced academic or something.
Exactly. But you could not do that with Friedrich III. To understand his credibility, you have to look at those three wars you just mentioned.
The Schleswig, Austro-Prussian, and Franco-Prussian Wars.
Yeah. Those weren't just, border skirmishes. These were the specific bloody conflicts that Bismarck engineered to violently stitch the German Empire together.
Right.
And Friedrich led troops in those very wars. He bled for the empire. He commanded the absolute respect of the army.
So he has, the ultimate military street cred. He's untouchable in that regard.
Precisely. He saw the horrors of war firsthand, which honestly often breeds a desire for civilian oversight.
That makes a lot of sense.
Furthermore, his liberalism wasn't just some vague philosophy. It was deeply personal. He was married to the United Kingdom's liberal Princess Royal, Victoria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their intellectual partnership was profound. They were deeply influenced by the British model of constitutional monarchy, where, the parliament holds real power and the monarch is more of a guiding figurehead.
So if we look at the mechanics of this, Friedrich III wanted to take this autocratic system where the chancellor answers only to the emperor, and he wanted to shift that power downward.
Right.
He wanted ministerial responsibility, making the government answerable to the elected parliament.
Yes. He wanted to transition Germany from a military autocracy into a modern, liberal, British-style democracy.
And the conservative establishment must have been terrified.
Oh, Bismarck was absolutely terrified of him.
So, the empire is holding its breath. The liberal savior with military backing finally has the throne. But there's a biological ticking clock that completely rewrites the script. The source tells us that before he even assumed the throne, Friedrich developed a terminal case of cancer of the larynx.
The timing is just devastating.
They tried treatments, but they failed. Imagine the psychological torture of this. You are this battle-hardened general. You've spent decades in the suffocating shadow of your conservative 90-year-old father. Waiting. You have grand visions to modernize your country, to enact sweeping liberal changes. You finally inherit the absolute power to do it, and you literally lose your voice.
He couldn't speak at all.
He had to communicate entirely through handwritten notes during his reign. I'm trying to wrap my head around the physical reality of this. How do you govern a massive militaristic autocracy using just pen and paper?
Well, the short answer is you don't. Yeah, a monarch's power, particularly in an autocratic system, relies heavily on physical presence. It relies on the ability to command a room, to verbally spar with political heavyweights, to publicly project strength.
And Bismarck was a master of that, right? Intimidation and debate.
Exactly. If you are the emperor and you want to fire a legendary chancellor like Bismarck and dismantle his entire system, you need to be able to look him in the eye and give the order.
Wow. Yeah. I see that.
When you are reduced to scribbling notes on scraps of paper while slowly suffocating from throat cancer, your authority is functionally neutralized.
The text states very clearly that despite attempting to fulfill his duties, Friedrich had no lasting effect upon Germany.
None.
His reign lasted a mere 99 days. From March 9th to June 15th, 1888. It's almost physically painful to think about.
It is a ghost ship of an administration.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
It was this phantom moment of potential reform that was silenced by biology before it could ever take root. It highlights a brutal reality about the mechanics of power, really.
Which is?
That knowledge, intention, and even absolute authority are entirely useless if you lack the physical capability to apply them. The empire waited decades for a new direction, and instead, they just experienced a 99-day agonizing pause.
Which acts as this insane slingshot effect for the country. Because Friedrich III's reign is cut so tragically short, the empire doesn't just revert to the status quo.
No, it gets launched into something completely different.
And far more dangerous. The 99 days end on June 15th, 1888, when Friedrich III dies. And this brings us to Emperor number 3, the catalyst for catastrophe.
He is succeeded by his son, Wilhelm II, named after his grandfather.
And Wilhelm II is only 29 years old when he takes power.
29. Just let the gravity of that sink in.
It's crazy.
The most powerful military machine in Europe, a country with immense industrial capability and complex diplomatic ties, has just handed the keys to a 29-year-old.
So what does this all mean? Let's just look at the extreme cultural whiplash this nation experienced. They start the year on January 1st with a 90-year-old, deeply conservative founding father.
Right.
He dies. They transition to a 56-year-old, battle-tested liberal reformer who can't speak and dies in 3 months. And then, by mid-June, they are ruled by an impulsive 29-year-old. If we want to understand the stakes in modern terms, it's like, imagine taking the nuclear launch codes, right?
Okay, yeah.
Codes which had been guarded by a cautious 90-year-old for decades, and suddenly handing them to a 29-year-old with absolutely zero psychological vetting.
That is terrifying.
Because our source notes a very critical detail about Wilhelm II. Unlike his father, he completely lacked liberal tendencies.
This raises an important question for anyone studying how institutions fail.
What's that?
What happens when a generation is skipped in an autocracy?
Yeah.
Because functionally, that's what happened in 1888. Ideologically, the empire completely skipped the reformative generation.
Right, because Wilhelm II idolized the militarism of his grandfather.
Exactly. He bypassed all the moderation, all the constitutional reforms his father was trying to instill. He just wanted to play soldier.
But it's worse than that, isn't it? Because he didn't just inherit his grandfather's military. He inherited the autocratic constitution Bismarck built for his grandfather.
Yes. This is the lethal combination right here. Bismarck built a system where the emperor had near absolute power. But that was assuming that the emperor would be a cautious 90-year-old man who would let Bismarck do the actual governing.
Right. Wilhelm II inherited all of that unchecked power, but he didn't want Bismarck running things.
No, he wanted personal rule. The system required a calm, steady hand to balance the incredibly complex web of alliances Bismarck had woven across Europe.
Alliances that were designed to keep Germany safe, right? By preventing a two-front war.
Exactly. But Wilhelm II did not have that temperament. He was brash, he was insecure, and he was completely obsessed with military posturing.
He wanted Germany to have its place in the sun.
Right.
So he starts expanding the Navy, alienating the British, which is wild because those are the very people his parents had tried to build a bridge with.
It's a complete reversal.
And the text explicitly connects this rapid succession and Wilhelm II's lack of liberal tendencies to the ultimate catastrophic outcome.
Yeah, his aggressive policies systematically dismantled Germany's alliances and directly led the nation into World War I.
He ruled from that chaotic summer in 1888 all the way until November 1918.
He pushed Europe into the most devastating conflict it had ever seen, resulting in millions of deaths and ultimately ending in his own abdication and the complete collapse of the German Empire.
It is staggering when you pull back and look at the sheer scale of the consequences. 3 generations of the same family holding the fate of a nation and really the entire world in a single year.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
We started this deep dive talking about how we usually view history as these slow-moving tectonic shifts, but the Dreikaiserjahr, the year of the 3 emperors, proves that political stability is incredibly fragile.
Very fragile.
Sometimes the entire course of a nation pivots in just 99 days. It is a sobering reminder that all the grand political structures, all of Bismarck's intricate treaties and alliances, were completely derailed by something as random and microscopic as a cancer cell.
It truly is. And, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, drawn right from the tragic core of this source material.
Okay, what is it?
Well, the text states that Friedrich III had no lasting effect because he died of larynx cancer so quickly. But what if the medical treatments in 1888 had actually been successful?
Oh, wow. Imagine that alternate timeline.
Right. If this liberal emperor, deeply connected to the British crown and possessing the military respect to actually enforce civilian oversight, had retained his voice.
That changes everything.
If he had ruled for 20 years instead of 99 days, fundamentally reforming the German Constitution, would his hardline 29-year-old son ever have been in a position of absolute power?
Probably not.
Would he have been able to unilaterally lead Germany and the world into the trenches of World War I?
It really forces us to ask how much of the 20th century's darkest history wasn't the result of inevitable political momentum, but simply the tragic consequence of a single biological event in 1888. That is heavy, but a perfect place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.